Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Podcast. I am Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we are here to talk to you today about the way we look at ourselves. Sophie's pregnant, so
Yep.
I'm kind of interested in seeing how that changes the way she talks about it normally. But this topic came up for me because we were getting ready one day in the bathroom, and I have self-image issues, like I'm sure a lot of people do. And I was looking in the mirror, and on that day, I thought, like, I checked out, everything looked okay. And I was just pointing out to you how it's so crazy that some days I wake up and I look and I'm fine with whatever I see. And as I age, it becomes more of an issue too. And then other days I wake up like literally the next day and I feel totally different about myself.
Right.
And I was making a point that that's not at all about the way I actually look in the mirror, because I can't look that freaking different 24 hours later. That
Exactly.
can't be what it is. And just how much of it, I talk to people about this all the time in addiction, and how beliefs have so much to do with, the way you address the world and your substances and all that kind of stuff. But this is so much more basic. It's just the way you feel about who you are and yourself, which you would think would be somehow objective, right? Like you would think it would have something to do with who you actually are. And then you find out it's not. It's almost all, or at least virtually almost all, about how you see yourself and how you believe in the psychological aspects of relating that. And you told me a really interesting thing that I'd heard before, but never connected in this way to me, about how you used to feel about yourself when you were growing up.
Yeah. It's been an ongoing process, as I'm sure every woman, man, person, human being experiences. It's your body. It's your one life. It's your one relationship with yourself. It's the ongoing process of coming back to yourself and accepting yourself for everything. And I think the physical can be sometimes the hardest.
Yeah, or at least I used to think that the physical would be the objective because it's there and
Right.
you see it, whereas the psychological is behind the scenes and you can believe that it's other things.
I think that's why, that even more so, that it's all connected. Like, that's just true, that everything is connected. Mind, body, soul, spirit, physical, mental, spiritual. We are all connected. When I'm in a really strong spiritual place, I feel great about myself. When I'm feeling a little frazzled and I'm not tuned in and taking time for myself, even 5 minutes to meditate or go to a yoga class or something that really helps me tap into my truth, I feel like crap on the outside.
So I want you to tell the specific, you told me a very specific story about yourself.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was just that thing about your body image and what you were like in elementary school and junior high, and what you wanted to look like.
Well, I always played sports growing up, and I always felt like, because I played soccer, I did competitive cheerleading, which was sometimes more like gymnastics-y. I always felt like I had more of an athletic build. My legs felt more athletic. I felt stronger. And all my girlfriends had this thin, at least in my mind, this thin build and this body that was like so skinny and lanky. And even my own sister is how much taller is Katie than me? 5 inches, 6 inches?
She's like an inch taller than I am.
Right. So how much taller? She's 5-6 inches taller than me.
At least 5 inches.
My own sister, like, who I looked up to, right? She's my older sister, and she was tall and lanky and thin, and it's the grass is always greener. And to me, it was like, why am I so like strong looking? Not that I ever felt fat necessarily, but I just wasn't proud. I was like trying to cover up my legs all the time. I didn't want to wear shorts very often. And when I did wear shorts, I felt self-conscious.
And you talked about your lips.
And then, when I was little, this one actually passed after elementary school, but when I was little, I lived in DC, and tons of best friends that were Black kids, like all different races, all of us, in these great cultural connected growing up processes in school and public education in DC. And I never really noticed that like most of my white friends had way thinner lips. I was like, I just woke up one day and realized like, oh, I look more like the black kids. And I felt so self-conscious. I always like would cry to my mom about like my lips being too big. And it's the funniest thing in the world. Now people are paying, these same white girls are paying all this money to get lip injections to have the lips that I have. And it's just insanity what we do to ourselves, the way that we strip ourselves of who we are, compare ourselves to someone else as if there's something wrong with how we look, when it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And now these same girls are like paying money to have the same lips that I had. And I beat myself up for days on end thinking like, and I was made fun of it. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just like, it wasn't like I was
going to ask if you remember what made it happen.
Oh yeah, no, boys would make fun of me, and they'd be like, they even like still once in a while, like I have a big booty also. So like someone like a black man will walk by me and be like, girl, I know you got some black in that ass, and like things like that. And like now it makes me laugh, and I'm like, hell yeah, I've got a great ass. Thank you very much. And I'm proud of it. But like as a kid, someone on the playground being like, your lips are huge. And I don't even remember because it was so long ago. And like the really mean stuff was when I was really young. But yeah, it's funny how these things just get integrated into your life, and you just take who you are for granted and start to just compare yourself to others. And it starts, unfortunately, young. Like I don't think Leo and Kai are doing it yet. They're 5 and 7. And I don't think they do that yet at all. I think they're pretty unaware of what they look like and like the differences between them. They're just starting to be aware of like their sexuality and like not wanting to be, or like their organs and like not wanting to be naked in front of people. But other than that, I don't think they notice what they look like. They're not very in tune with the physical. Well,
I didn't even realize that for you there was even a racial like piece to it at all when you originally talked about it. I mean, there are standards regardless of race, right? Like there are kind of like these, what good looking is, and it changes. It always changes in society. And so it is incredible how a person that looks amazing, like there's this whole thing about, I think Twiggy was this model in the 70s and she was, rail thin. And that was like the hot thing back then. Whereas, you look at Ruben, the artist, the painter, and Rubenesque women were oversized women. You know, people talk about Marilyn Monroe being kind of like this idol. She was a big woman. Yeah. And so it's interesting to hear how for you it kind of fit into just based on where you were living. Because I don't remember where I remember when vanity like entered into my head. And it's so bizarre how early it started, but I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I remember standing in front of a mirror. Somebody must have said something. I don't know what it was, but literally the thought in my head passed something along the lines of like, you're not good looking enough to get by on that. You're going to need more than just that in life.
That's crazy.
And I have no idea what happened, like what somebody had said beforehand, but it became a thing. And I mean, you've known me now for a really, really long time. There is no doubt, like, people talk about how we're transparent here. I have no doubt admitting that vanity is this weird thing for me. I try to stay away from it, and it keeps kind of peeking back and making me question myself, or am I good enough, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And I think that's why, to me, this conversation is so important. I don't know that men are supposed to talk about that kind of thing, right? Like men aren't really we're not supposed to care how we look. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. At some point in my life that entered into my brain, and it's never fully left. And, it makes me trust myself less in other ways, because if I can be that kind of persuadable or that subjective about who I am physically, even though, like I said, I'm the same guy, right? Like,
did your parents ever comment about like what you looked like or give you any sort of?
My parents always told me that I was pretty or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a thing. Well, we tell that to our kids, and I know that's a point you wanted to make today.
Yeah. No, I just didn't know, like, because my mom and dad, like, I felt so beautiful. I felt so loved. My mom, if I was looking in the mirror, my mom was like, you are so perfect in all your ways. Like what makes you unique makes you even more perfect. And I really believed I was beautiful. It wasn't until I was made fun of and I'm sure I was also made fun of for my legs, because I wasn't a fat kid. I just was I was muscly and I was athletic.
You have strong legs.
I have strong legs. I still do. And it must have been something that somebody said. But it sucks that you can do the best you can as parents and tell them all the right things and still end up in a similar spot because of society.
And isn't it crazy how now this thing, and maybe it was more than one kid, but whatever it is, it's now continued, right? Like it's lasted until now, maybe in more minor ways, and you've learned to deal with it.
I've definitely only made peace with my legs probably in the last 10 years. And I think that's when I started really, taking more control. As an adult, you lose a little bit of the baby fat. I had baby fat like around my face, and like I think I was a little bit like just more like a kid looking body. And then as I had babies and got hips and like really started to kind of feel more like a woman, I realized how beautiful it was, and like that my body in proportion made sense. And I started to embrace and also began to have a little bit more of control. So instead of just like, this is the body I'm in, which is the way it is in high school for the most part, I started to work out on my own and work out certain body parts and work with trainers. I became a trainer at 20. I started to understand my body in a new way. And I was like, oh, I don't have to just be this way that makes me miserable. I can kind of like thin out. And that's when I found yoga and spin. And those things actually helped me change my body a little bit, just enough to make me feel like I love my body. I feel strong. I earned this. Like, it's perfect just the way that it is. But it's still a reminder. It's still something I have to do. My lips, totally happy, at peace, love them. They're a part of who I am, the same as like my eye color. It's nothing anymore. I'm proud of that. But my legs are still like, I still have to kind of like give myself a pep talk once in a while, or like go through a certain routine at the gym to make myself feel like, oh, I did enough squats or I did enough lunges that like now they're stronger than they were yesterday.
Okay. I mean, I think that's probably really important for people who are listening to hear, because we all have this. And I know you get messages or texts or whatever from people telling you how much they appreciate or want to have a body like yours. So it's really important for people to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
You said the grass is always greener, but it's so much more about accepting who you are. Somebody left a comment or somebody had a post the other day about how beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I'm the beholder.
Oh yeah.
I really liked that a lot. It was kind of like, oh, I get to determine to some extent, to a large extent, as we're talking about, whether I consider myself beautiful. And then other people, like we've talked about so many times, and other people will fall in line because you walk the walk. You know what I'm saying? You said something before that I thought was really interesting and important, and that is, we definitely live in a vain world where vanity and the way you look is so important. And we're raising kids, and we also tell them that they're smart. We tell them all this other stuff, or that they're fun or whatever. But taking the emphasis a little bit off of the beautiful piece of it.
The physical.
Yeah, because...
Who are they?
Yeah.
Who are they as people? And what makes them who they are? It's not the way they look. It's who they are. I mean, they could be the cutest things in the world, but if they're brats and selfish or assholes or entitled, they're not cute kids anymore. They are ugly kids. And I've been around plenty of ugly kids that are just the most beautiful on the outside, and then they speak, and I'm like, you need to go somewhere. And it sucks. It sucks for the kid. It sucks for the parents. Like, something's gone wrong. And I think with Kai and Leo, like they are so freaking cute, but part of what makes them so cute is their hearts, is how they treat people, is their awareness of the world, and that they aren't the center of it. And I think for a 5 and 7-year-old, they're pretty freaking good at really thinking about other kids and really, really thinking about other people in the world, not even kids. They see a homeless person, they are so compassionate. Mommy, can we please stop? Do you have any food? Do you have $1? Right. And that's built up from our teachings, but they're very compassionate kids, and we ran with that. And I think that that's the goal here, is to continue focusing on the things that make them. Well, their souls.
And it's not even with the kids, right? I mean, it's about the conversations that we have
in front of them
and with ourselves.
Exactly.
Because
they can feel that.
If we focus on what makes us better people, then we're putting the emphasis on that, and they can see that, they can feel it, they can pay attention to what we're doing and what we're putting our efforts into. When we go to, everybody who's listening at this point probably knows, In-N-Out is like one of those treats that our kids get. Like if I take them to the gym or whatever, that's one of the things they always love.
If you don't come to California or Arizona very often, In-N-Out is like almost like it's a fast food restaurant, but it's a little cleaner. So they've got they make their own potatoes and they fry in a certain type of oil, but it's like a fun fast food that
it's fast food, but it's like very clean, very old school. It's like they've been around since the 60s or 70s and they've kept everything exactly the same.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's just the one that the kids love. And so every once in a while we go there. And when we go there, the one that we go to right by our house typically has a homeless person standing. And I kind of just come up with this habit now where before we even walk in, I tell the kids to stop for a moment. I go over there. Actually, I should do this with the kids. I should go there with the kids. And I ask them if they want something to eat. And then we go inside. When I order food for that person too, and I walk it out for them. And it gives us this opportunity to just talk about,
totally.
Wait, why are you going outside? Oh, I'm going to give them food. Because if we don't pay attention to it, if we avoid it or just neglect it, they're going to pick up information somehow.
That person doesn't matter.
And then we're giving up not just control, but we're giving up our influence on our children for the things that we care about and the things that we think are important.
I mean, I'm up for the challenge, but the fact that we're having a daughter freaks me out in a lot of ways. I mean, talk about just having Kai and Leo has taught me to be such a better person because I can't get away with as much. I don't want to get away with as much. I want to be in my integrity. But a girl, they are even more paying attention. And I mean, when it comes to body image and self-worth.
What are you trying to say about boys?
Boys are in their own world a little bit, which is beautiful and amazing. And they love going into their little imaginations. But girls are always paying attention even more so than boys are.
Especially to social things.
Social things, body awareness, watching their mommy and the way that their mommy gets dressed and the words she says to herself. And I mean, I know I can act out right now the way my mom looked in the mirror. I can act out right now the look she gave herself. It is ingrained in my eyeballs, in my head, because I watched her do it my entire growing up process. I know the way my sister looks in the mirror. I know the way my stepmom, it's a real thing and you can't hide from it. So I am so grateful that I have been working for so long. I am nowhere near perfect, but when it comes to food stuff, the fact that I don't look at a food anymore and think about its calories is so freeing. And it doesn't make me as freaked out to have a little girl, because when 8 years ago, I was pregnant with Kai, I absolutely looked at food as calories. I absolutely restricted myself. I absolutely couldn't wait to go on my next starvation diet. Now, I wouldn't even consider it. And it makes me more hopeful and excited and also still terrified.
Well, you talk to a lot of women, just like I talk to a lot of people who struggle with drugs and alcohol, obviously. You talk to a lot of women that really have serious body image issues. It's not look, we both try to be healthy. We both work out a lot and all that kind of stuff. But I think for the most part, that's not really an issue in our household.
No.
Neither one of us goes on starvation diets. Neither one of us does that sort of stuff. I joke around that I gain weight every time you get pregnant, but it's just we let go of some of the eating stuff where you just eat so much more food when you're pregnant that I eat along with you.
Yeah. And we're eating out more. I'm let's go to Indian, let's go to Thai food when I'm pregnant, as opposed to when I'm trying to eat more clean. And I'm just not craving as heavy foods when I'm
went to Indian. I really crave Indian. I want some Indian.
Yeah, I definitely
Can we go to Indian?
I went by myself to Indian.
A buffet.
You guys, I had 45 minutes in between two meetings the other day, and I was in Westwood, and I didn't have enough time to do any other type of thing. So I was starving, and I saw an Indian buffet.
I love the rationalization.
No.
I had no time to do other things. You just wanted Indian food, and just came up in front of your face.
I've never gone to a buffet by myself, much less an Indian buffet. So
I can vouch for the fact that I've known you for 13, 14 years, and you've never walked into a buffet, period.
No. Yeah. So I go into this Indian place, and they're oh, we're having our lunch buffet. I'm great. It was $13. I had easily 3 plates of food by myself, a little date with myself. I was so happy.
Yeah, I love Indian food, and I can't wait to have it with you.
Yeah,
but we haven't had it in years.
I'll invite you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But you were talking about how you went to this place, and you had the food, and you were eating, because this is what happens. You're pregnant, right? You're building literally another human, and you're always hungry.
Yeah.
But I feel you definitely told me stories back at UCLA days, undergrad, where you guys were pretty militant about the way you would eat.
Yeah.
And I don't really see that at all in our household.
Oh, no. I mean, I swear these pregnancies helped me heal because I wanted it. It wasn't just the pregnancy. Like, you don't just go through pregnancy and then you're healed. But if you go into something with an intention, I didn't want to have disordered eating at all around my children. And I knew that. And I was very clear that I had a problem, or like late teens, early 20s, I would binge eat with my girlfriends. I would binge eat alone. I would starve myself all day long. I would go on binge workouts where I would just like work out for 3 hours and like not eat, and really abusive relationship with myself. And
here's the problem: is you were literally beating yourself up.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
like,
literally. And I knew it. I would do things deliberately as a punishment.
You are psychologically punishing yourself.
I would punish myself. I'd be like, well, now I have to take this other one because I ate like such shit last night, or I drank too much, or whatever. Just this disordered, like looking at food and looking at working out as if it could ever be a punishment. And now it's like such like a nurturing thing. Both things are so nurturing. I eat because I want to love myself. I eat because these foods nourish my soul, my body, my cells, my organs, you know?
So here's my question, right? People are listening, and we know because people have been writing to us, or you've told me you've shared things that people have shared with you about some of the other topics and some of the things that people are commenting. And I know that people write to you and say like, I won't let myself eat a cookie, or I won't let myself,
or I do, and I feel the most guilt for 3 days straight.
And so what kind of advice do you give those people? What kind of work can people do to learn how to live their life in a way that is more accepting of who they are, still wanting to be healthy, right? The goal can still be, I want to be healthy.
I consider myself to be more healthy now than I ever was because I'm balanced. I eat, I have fun, I drink, I go out and party. Not while I'm pregnant, but in normal life, I have a really beautiful balance of eating enough nutrients to serve my body and to feel good and not too bloated or not too full. But I also still have fun. I like to have dessert almost every day. It's a good balance. And like that balance is my balance, and everyone has their own. So I actually am about to release, it might actually be released by the time this comes out. And if it is, then we'll link it. But I've been creating for the last month a PDF booklet about intuitive eating. And that is the key.
An ebook.
It's an ebook. Yeah. So the ebook is all about intuitive eating. It gives you specific steps. So it's actually the answer to your question. That's the things in the book are the things that I keep repeating to my clients.
Cool. So what are like top 3?
Keep a food journal. So start to be more intuitive with what it is you're putting into your body and how it makes you feel.
So that's about being mindful. Start paying attention, right?
Yeah.
I think that's such
an important... We mindlessly eat. We mindlessly grab things. We are avoiding, writing a paper. So we sit and eat like 3 bags of popcorn, or we don't want to make that uncomfortable phone call with our boyfriend or our mom. So we eat all the cookies because we just want to like feel heavy and feel like disconnected, or maybe feel a little high from the sugar. I've been there and done that with all of that. And the only way that every time through age 18, 19, 20, 21, when I was suffering the most with body dysmorphic, with being in college, with thinking I was fat, when I was like ridiculously too tiny, when I, all of those scary times when I was like binge eating and I'd find myself like, how did I just get here? The way that I pulled myself out every single time was with a food journal.
Okay, awesome. So paying attention and keeping a journal and really being diligent.
Yeah.
How long do people normally keep a journal for?
Well, for me, it was 3 days. This is going to be in the book, in the ebook. It'll be 3 days, but breakfast, lunch, dinner, really anything you put into your body, and then how it makes you feel. Not how many calories you're eating, not what, quantity, but like I ate, gluten-y bread with like a thing of almond butter. 30 minutes later, I had a stomach ache. Like, okay. So then, and not judging it, not anything, but just being more mindful about what you're putting into your body, how it makes you feel. And then 3 days later, there's some trends here. There are some things that make sense.
Cool. So this is really in line with the kind of mindfulness stuff that I, we'll talk about it later, but when I like do the course, I really recommend people start with that. Like we do so many things mindlessly. In life. And so just paying attention.
We're just an autopilot most of the time. And that's scary. That's a scary place to be. That's scary if you have You know, if you're driving around a car on autopilot, that's scary. If you're eating mindlessly, that's scary.
Well, it's interesting, right? Like it saves you energy from having to focus all the time, but you don't want to go through all of life like that. And if there are areas you want to change, that's where you really got to put your attention.
Absolutely.
So what's the second thing that you really recommend to almost everybody other than journal?
I don't really want to release all my secrets on here.
Okay, not releasing all the secrets.
You need to get the ebook to find out.
All right, get the ebook. You know, I think what I'm hearing from you more than anything else is, you've been through all this stuff. Like you've judged yourself.
I've judged myself, but I've also done every single diet out there. And that there's no answer there. That's not going to save you. That's not going to be your saving grace. The diet, the restrictions, the like beating yourself up, none of that works. It just doesn't. You need to come to a place of self-love. You need to develop a relationship where you see yourself for who you really are, which comes back to what we were saying with like parenting and just in general, how we compliment people. Like, I don't even know anyone in my life anymore that would come up to me and be like, wow, have you lost weight? You look really skinny lately, or you look really great in that. To comment on physical appearance is just not something that people in my life do anymore. But in college, that's all you want to hear. Like, oh, you look skinny. Have you done something different? You know, it's so crazy. Like, what a different world that is. And with kids, it's the same way. It's more like, wow, that was really funny what you just said. Like, you're so funny sometimes, Leo. Like,
yeah.
I wish you would tell me more jokes, or you just kind of like more of that. It's fine to comment on one's physical appearance, but it's more important to focus on the things that they have for the rest of their lives.
Totally.
Anything could happen, and something could happen to that beautiful face, right? Something could happen.
Yeah, or again, like you don't want all their idea of where their self-worth comes from to be tied to how they look.
Right.
Period. Like even like you said, even if they are, and our kids are, just to be clear, some of the most beautiful things that have ever happened to the face of the earth.
Just saying.
Even if that is true, that's not where you want their self-confidence and self-esteem and self-efficacy to come from. You don't want them to know, because I'm good looking, everything else will come along, which is why it's so weird, that thought that I had when I was like 7 or 8.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
It's like in my mind somehow, if I was better looking, life would be easier. And that's what saddens me more than anything, is like I was somehow, the premonition was somehow like, oh, life's going to be hard for you because you're not good looking enough. And I don't know who said what when I was 7 or 8, but for that to sink in and to kind of like have this negative expectation of what life will turn out like because of who I am, that sucks.
Well, I think also a good practice, like I would say this to my clients, but also just like right now, I would challenge you guys listening. If you're just somewhere else and you don't have pen and paper, like grab pen and paper if you can, but if not, grab your phone and go onto the notes section and just write down like 3 compliments about yourself that have nothing to do with your physical appearance. So like, I am empowered, or I am powerful. Positive affirmations. It's a big thing I do with clients. Yep. So like a positive affirmation about yourself, but do 3 things right now, compliments to yourself. Here's a big thing about positive affirmations. People always, and I used to think that it's the cheesiest thing ever when a therapist did that with me like 8-9 years ago. But here's the thing. When you have a lot of negative self-talk, your brain is practicing talking shit about yourself. Exactly. And so what you're in practice of is speaking ill of yourself. If you start practicing saying positive things about yourself, and I really, by the way, whether you take my course, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, but or not, you need to embody those things. Like when you say them, you need to somehow connect in your brain. What would it look like if I really full on believe this thing and say it in that way? Because your brain, in order to produce the I am smart in a way that feels authentic, has to put itself in a specific network activation. Once that activation is there and you repeat it, your brain gets practice at now saying positive things about who you are. And it starts paying attention to those things. And that is massively important. And since you are a neuroscientist and you've done so much research in this, do you think that you can rewire your brain? So if you continually... It's not whether I think you can rewire your brain. You can, no matter what age you are. 100%. Okay. I mean, people talk about how your brain stops producing neurons. First of all, that's not really true. It slows down the rate of neuron production as you grow older and older. But neuron production is not how you get memory. The way you get memory is literally a physical rewiring of the connection between your different neurons and their synapses, etc. Now, that activation, though, has to happen because of activity. It has to happen because something caused it. So
if you talk ill of yourself constantly, and by the way, I'm swearing less because somebody left a comment that they didn't connect to my swearing, so I'm trying to swear a little bit less.
It's a good practice.
I know that's a good thing for me. Yeah. But if you speak ill of yourself on a regular basis, that is what's being reinforced. And so if you just wait, nothing is going to change. Your brain doesn't change by lack of activity. It changes by you doing something.
Doing something differently.
Or it'll reinforce more the things you're used to doing. So saying something positive to yourself 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, that you want to believe will make your brain have to say it. If you connect authentically to how it's supposed to feel it. And then through repetition, it will keep creating a stronger and stronger network that believes it. And so you get from, this is where people say things like, act as if until it's true, and think all that, those kinds of saying. The reason is after repetition, your brain learns better by 2 things, repetition or intensity. So if everybody knows this, like if you've had a really, really scary experience or an incredibly elating experience once in your life, it doesn't need to happen repetitively. You will remember it. Like I will never forget standing at our wedding, right? All those people, the attention, like all the excitement of us getting married. I remember standing there and you walk. That doesn't need to happen twice for me to remember it. But things that are less intense need to happen repetitively. So you need to practice positive affirmations. It doesn't just work because you did it yesterday. And then people get upset because they go, oh, it didn't change anything. I did it for a day and a half. It's not about a day and a half.
Yeah.
This is a practice. You start doing it, and then your brain gets better and better at it. And what I tell people all the time, they ask me, well, when can I stop? And I say, you can stop when it doesn't feel any differently when you do it again. Because when you do it and you go, yeah, obviously this is true. Now you're done because you have practiced this enough where your brain has incorporated this in. And so positive affirmations are so powerful, but people get chicken out. Like they stand in front of the mirror. They feel silly or stupid, and they kind of look, or they do this thing where they go, I am confident.
Right.
And I go, yeah, that's exactly how confident people act, right? And so they're reinforcing, even through the positive affirmations, their negative beliefs about themselves.
Yeah.
That's a really, really big thing.
It's powerful, and it's a good practice.
You said before that, I guess this works along with this, is gratitude.
Yeah.
And the
it's
idea, it's, Ryan, if you guys have not heard Waking Up with Ryan, you need to, you don't have to stop this.
What episode is that?
I don't remember. I don't number them.
It's one of the first.
Should I number them?
No, it's one of the first few.
Yeah, we've had it, I think about maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago by the time this one is out. Waking Up with Ryan, you'll see it. One of his tips that I love and I try to embody every single time that I wake up, he says, as soon as you realize that you wake up, try to spend time being grateful for 5 things in your life. And again, he says the same thing, really, really embody them. So
I love that.
We have journal, we have positive affirmation, we have gratitude. I think those are 3 amazing takeaway tips that people can take.
Absolutely. And just, again, coming back to self-care, taking more baths, things that aren't necessarily wrapped into your physical appearance. So not necessarily going to the gym and working out, but maybe you are doing yoga without a mirror.
Sure.
Just to kind of tune in, or meditating, or doing a face mask, or reading a book. Just things that are really...
Reading a book, going to see a movie. For me, like when I have the time, I'll go play a video game.
Yeah.
Just like disconnect. Whatever it is, you said it's self-care.
It's about you.
Whatever it is that allows you to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. So that you feel better, you feel nourished, you feel like you got to disconnect from the outside world. Also, one last thing is, in the world of social media, I've actually started spending less time in the last 6 months or so on it, as much as my account has grown and as much as my world and my career are wrapped into social media. I actually spend a lot less time on it, because I've found that the more time I spend on, especially Instagram,
like looking at other people,
the more time I spend on Instagram, the more likely I am to be looking at other people and comparing myself.
Yeah.
And I've unfollowed most of the people that make me feel anything other than good and positive, because the reason I go to something like Instagram or Facebook is to feel good.
Yeah.
To see my loved ones from across the country and their children growing up and a funny thing that they're doing, or to feel proud of one of my girlfriends that taught an awesome class, and to feel good, or to feel inspired if I'm feeling low. So I want to be able to go there. It is your choice. You don't have to follow people.
Right.
You don't have to follow whoever you
totally.
want. You can follow people that make you feel good. And just because someone else follows that person doesn't mean you need to. It doesn't mean it's going to resonate. Doesn't mean it's going to make you feel good. Doesn't mean it's going to fill up your cup. That's the point. You're there to fill up your own cup, to feel inspired, and to share your truth. Totally. It's really difficult to share your truth when you're bombarded by all these negative things.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot less to cut myself off. And if I find myself spiraling on Instagram and comparing myself and doing that whole thing, I pull myself off for the rest of the night or the rest of the day or whatever it is. And I just have to, same with like overeating. It's the same idea. Just like, I'm just going to pull myself away from food for a while because clearly I can't be trusted. That's
funny.
And same, if it's Halloween and there's Halloween candy everywhere, like I'm going to walk out of the kitchen because it's no longer safe in there. Same with Instagram. Danger zone. Same with the constant scrolling. If I notice that I'm scrolling aimlessly, I haven't done that in so long, but I remember doing that and being like, it was like my self-worth was just going, every time I scrolled, my self-worth was going down at the same time.
Yeah.
Just be aware of yourself, be aware of your habits, be aware of what fills you up, what charges you, what makes you feel empowered, and what depletes you.
Totally. Absolutely. You have a choice in all these things. So remember, the way you feel about yourself is partially about how your body biologically actually feels and how you look and all that kind of stuff, but it's a lot about your beliefs. We shared some tips about what to do about that. First of all, I want to we always ask you at the end, we ask you to leave comments and reviews. If you like what we do, please leave us a little 5-star review and a comment. And we want to thank Cohen, Marissa, Faith,
Marissa,
Bubbly Boop, Burger 08, K Bastida, and Bacon and Champagne. I want to know who Bacon and Champagne is.
I like that person.
Yeah. But we want to thank you for your 5-star and ratings and the reviews. We really appreciate you guys so much. And as you could tell from me trying to swear less, I swear we read the reviews so we can see what you guys think of this and how we can make it better for you. Just to let you guys know, Sophie and I have an Ignited Couples Workshop in Seattle, Bala Yoga. It is on the ignited.com website under Ignited Couples, and it's also on their website. If you look up Sophie, Adi, Jaffe, Seattle, I'm sure it'll come up by itself. Check it out. It's slowly selling out, and if you want to be there, we would love to have you. It's a half-day workshop on couples and our whole thing about radical transparency and all that kind of stuff. I just launched my Ignited Recovery course by now a couple of weeks ago, probably by the time this thing is up. Over 12 hours of help for people to get addiction assistance. My whole thing in addiction is it's so expensive, so hard to get to, so hard to find good addiction help. This is me for over 12 hours of videos at the comfort of your own home. You can do it on your mobile phone. You can do it on your laptop. You can do it wherever you are. And it costs as much as like a month of therapy. And you're going to get access to it for a full year. If you have any questions, link in my Instagram profile and on Ignited Recovery if you go to that. Anything else you guys want to hear from, anything you want to talk to us about, please send us a comment, leave Sophie a direct message, or leave me one on Instagram or info@ignited.com. And we can't wait to connect to you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
And please share with your friends, give a screenshot to your story or post it on your page. Or if something inspires you, we've been loving the things you've been writing so far, but just share with your friends, share on Facebook, give it a little review, but also just to your communities, because that's how we grow, is word of mouth.
Whoop, whoop.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.